Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Tips to Avoid Holiday Scams. My name is Kelly Schweppe, and I'm the Program Marketing Specialist here at General Electric Credit Union. We're so glad you've joined us as we have a lot of great content ahead. Thanks to technology, we're excited to be able to connect with you on such a great topic and wanted to thank you all for tuning in from the comfort of your home, work, or wherever you may be today. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Todd Lindgren with the FBI Cincinnati chapter to introduce himself and take us through today's topic.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me here today. I appreciate General Electric Credit Union hosting this presentation. Again, my name's Todd Lindgren, and I've been with the FBI for over 12 years, and I serve as the Public Affairs Officer of the Cincinnati Division. So a part of this role includes speaking to community groups about the FBI, working to help prevent crime through community awareness presentations just like this. So I want to take just a moment to talk briefly about the FBI. Most people will never have contact with an FBI agent or employee, but we have over 30,000 people working across the nation and the globe to help keep people safe on a daily basis. Our mission is really to protect the American people and defend the Constitution of the United States. And this includes protecting people from scams and financial crimes. One of our top criminal priorities is actually preventing and investigating financial fraud. And that's everything from the billion-dollar Bernie Madoff Ponzi schemes to embezzlements and common frauds that you may experience yourself. Our goal today is really to help raise awareness about some of the frauds and scams that we see on a regular basis so that you don't become a victim. So if everyone's ready, let's get started. So the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or what we call IC3.gov, was created by the FBI and several other agencies about 20 years ago to serve as a clearinghouse for fraud reporting. They look at frauds being reported and then they bundle similar cases, and then they can refer those cases to the appropriate law enforcement agency for potential investigation. So we always recommend if you encounter a fraud situation online or over the phone or through other means, it should be reported to IC3.gov for further review. IC3 also collects a lot of data and is a pretty good resource to look for common frauds and trends. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you this morning as we get started. According to the statistics from IC3, over the last 5 years, there have been over 2.2 million complaints, and they total over $13 billion in losses. And again, our goal is we want to help prevent these frauds from occurring and work to reduce the losses, and that's what we're talking about again today. Unfortunately, Ohio ranks pretty high in the rankings for victims and amount of money lost. You can see Ohio is 12th on the list of states with the most victims, about 13,000 in 2020. And Ohio is also 5th for the amount of losses, over $170 million lost, which is roughly about $12,000 per victim. And as you can see from these statistics, our friends and neighbors are losing a lot of money due to different types of frauds and scams. This chart shows some of the top frauds by types of scam. You can see that phishing is the top scam in terms of the number of victims. Number 2 on the list was non-payment and non-delivery schemes. And this is something that occurs a lot around the holidays as people order gifts online. We're going to talk a little bit more about. This next chart shows the amount of money lost by type of scam. Last year, over $265 million was reported lost to IC3.gov due to non-payment and non-delivery schemes. And that's a pretty significant amount of money, I think. And I wasn't planning on discussing romance scams today, but you can see from the chart, romance fraud was the second highest grossing fraud with $600 million lost just last year. We believe that number is underreported too because a lot of people are embarrassed by these types of scams and don't want to report them. But it's something that we see a lot during the holidays as people feel lonely and want some companionship during the holidays. These numbers often increase and we see more victims fall to these scams. So let's now talk a little bit about the types of fraud and how they occur. I think it's pretty obvious that frauds can occur through many, many means, but these are kind of the most common. We see them on the computer, whether it's email or the internet or an app on your phone. These methods provide some anonymity for the scammers. They often feel like they're safe because it's easier to hide who they are and where they're located when they're online. That doesn't mean they can't be tracked. We certainly can track them, but it can be much harder to do so. Through the mail, written fraud schemes can be sent, straight to your mailbox, like that offer for a deeply discounted holiday vacation, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. On the phone, callers may call you and say they represent a fake charity, possibly asking for money or a holiday donation. Sometimes they even spoof phone numbers to make it look like they're calling from a legitimate agency, but they're really trying to scam you. And then in person, not as common these days because it's so much easier to be anonymous online or over the phone, but you still see some scams that are committed face-to-face. Now, these are a few common holiday fraud scams that we're going to talk about today. Online shopping scams, social media shopping scams, those Secret Sister, Secret Santa gift exchanges, holiday sweepstakes, and gift card scams. Online shopping scams. So let's set the scene. So maybe your computer, it's getting closer to the holidays. Maybe it's a chilly November day. You have your favorite cozy socks on. You're sipping some warm coffee. Christmas music's playing in the background. You're sitting at your computer, you're browsing online stores, and you've decided, hey, I'm not going to the mall this year. I'm going to avoid those crowds. I'm going to sit in the comfort of my own home and do all my online shopping. Sounds like a pretty great plan. The only problem is that as more people look online to buy their holiday gifts, the scammers have realized that this is a pretty rich environment where they may be able to swindle you out of your money. So as you can see from this public service announcement, online scams continue to grow. Often what happens is that people buy things online and never receive them. This is what we call the non-delivery scam. Or maybe they don't receive what they should have, a misrepresentation issue. Maybe you're looking for a particular electronic gift. Those are always popular. And you do an online search and you click on a page that looks something like this. The site looks professional, has some of the electronics you're looking for, and wow, they're pretty great prices, right? Here you can get a new iPad for just $99, or an Xbox gaming console is $149, or a new phone for $159. These seem like really fantastic prices. As you continue looking at the sites, you notice this ad for a Nintendo Switch. Maybe your child or grandchild wants one, and this is a huge discount at just $119. In fact, it's almost too good to be true, but you click the link anyways. Maybe it takes you to a nice looking website that shows the Nintendo Switch, and it shows they only have 2 left in stock. So you quickly put one in your online cart, you enter your shipping information, put in your credit card or other payment information, and pay for the item. And so then you wait for it to arrive on your doorstep. And you wait, and you wait. And unfortunately, it never arrives, and you wonder what happened. But sadly, this is a common non-delivery scheme. Professional looking websites are really easy to create for thieves. They list really hot products like electronics and video games and things that they think are going to be popular. They use these to lure you in as an interested customer. And they often put extra low prices on these items so the shoppers will think about buying them from their site. Some even up the pressure. They'll list like an inventory number on each item that they supposedly have on hand, so buyers will see the number. And it's usually a low number. Maybe they'll say they have 2 or 3 in stock, and that's pressure, kind of a psychological trick to get the customer to buy the item right away so they don't miss out on the great deal. The big warning sign is that these sites are often ones that you haven't heard before, right? You maybe found them on the internet when you're surfing, but they're not the typical stores you know. It's not a Target website or a Best Buy or Walmart or Amazon or even the manufacturer's website. It's something that you clicked on through a link and maybe haven't heard of before. Some of the other common trends we see in these frauds is that the sites list really hot items for lower prices than any other site. So a lot of the electronic manufacturers you may know, like Apple and Nintendo, actually control pricing on their items. So it's very unusual to see them listed for a lower price. If you see them on a site for a low price, and it's not a site you've shopped at before, it's not a manufacturer's website, you should be leery of that price. Also be very cautious if you visit a site and it requests any purchases be made online using a money transfer service. This basically moves money straight from your credit union account to an account owned by the scammers. And once that money is transferred, it is gone and almost impossible to recover. Reputable sites, they're going to allow you to use a credit card that offers protections if you never receive the item or if you're a victim of some sort of fraud. And your contract with the credit card company should state that you are responsible only for certain charges, and there's probably a maximum you would have to pay if indeed you are a victim of fraud. So it's always a good idea to check if the website you're visiting has contact information on it. If you go to the contact info, look at the information and see if it appears legitimate, if it's an address based in the United States and one that you can verify. And this is always something to consider before purchasing from one of these sites. Another type of fraud we see when it comes to online shopping involves internet auctions. Internet auction sites are very popular, but they also have some things you need to be aware of. Sadly, some of the items on there can be intentionally misrepresented. So if you wanted this fancy red motorcycle, do your homework and make sure you're getting the real thing and not you're ending up with that little red tricycle there on the right. It's very important to look at the item description very carefully. If something sounds odd or doesn't seem right, move on and just don't buy it. I'd also look at the seller's feedback to see if other buyers have had good experiences with that seller. And you can take a close look at where the item will ship from. If it appears the item is going to ship from overseas, there's probably a higher chance that it may be fraudulent. Now, if you're going to buy something valuable, maybe some art or some jewelry, it's always a good idea to have that item appraised by a third party that you select before buying to ensure the authenticity of what you're interested in purchasing. So some sellers may say that an item's been appraised, and they may give it some sort of value based on that appraisal, or maybe even show a picture of a appraisal certificate, but don't take their word for it. Be very extra cautious on items of value and make sure that you have it appraised by someone you select before buying it. If you do become a victim of an online shopping scam, unfortunately, getting your money back can be pretty difficult, if not impossible. In many situations, you can actually reach someone on the phone or email. In many situations, if you do reach someone on phone or email, they're probably only going to offer you a partial refund. They're going to try and hold on to your money and not give it back. That's what the scammers do. If they do offer some sort of refund, there's probably going to be conditions attached to that. And the main one lots of times is that you're going to have to ship the item overseas back to them, either to China or another country where it came from. And that can be enormously expensive and might not even be worth the time or the effort. So sadly, even if you do return the item, there's no guarantee that you're going to get your money back either. It's kind of a gamble. The scammers, they're not really into the customer service business, so often any attempts to contact them will be unsuccessful. And as I mentioned, once they have your money, they don't really have plans to give any back. So the key is to prevent them from getting it in the first place. So when you're shopping online, there are many warning signs to look for. While most of us use search engines that may take us to a specific web page, it's important to look at the address of any page you might click on or be taken to. As you probably know, most commercial web pages have a .com address, and the com is for commercial. And while it doesn't necessarily need to have a commercial purpose to use this suffix, most legitimate commercial sites use .com addresses. If you're thinking of buying something online, check the site address. If it says .club or .top, like the site shown here, it may be a fraudulent site. So this is sportsfunds.club, something I've never heard of, and though it looks like a nice picture, I'd be a little leery of ordering anything from it. Here's another example. This looks like an Under Armour site, but the address is topdiscountshop.buzz. And these domains like buzz, .club, and .top are non-restricted and can be bought by anyone for any purpose, so they can be easily acquired by scammers. The fraudsters can also easily copy legitimate websites by creating fancy looking sites of their own. This is the Cheap Jordan Shoes Store. That's the name of the site. It looks a lot like a legitimate Nike Air Jordan site, but it's really not. If you read the first line of text below the photo, I know it's really, really small, so I'll read it for you, but it says, and this is a quote, "In the world, we know that Air Jordan Shoes is one great basketball shoes brand and popular in the world." The other sentences are pretty equally bad. I'm not great at grammar, but I understand that when you see things like this, it should be a red flag. Either they use some sort of Google translator or the people don't speak great English. When they tried to translate it, the translation came out not so great. And so again, this is a red flag because companies like Nike are going to protect their brand and their product, and they're not going to put their shoes and their reputation on a site like this. If you read further down, it also states that they, quote, can supply the low price and authentic quality as we can have great connections with the shoes factory, unquote. So if this were a legitimate Nike site, they probably wouldn't be talking about connections they have with the factory because Nike owns the factory, right? So by suggesting they have some sort of connection to the factory, it makes me think that they're actually manufacturing fake Nike shoes and trying to pass them off as authentic. All these warning signs, again, like the web address, the really low price on the shoes, the improper grammar, and then references to these contacts at a factory should be enough to make you stay away from a site like this. So to recap, here are some of the tips to avoid online scams during the upcoming holiday season. First, always do your homework on the retailer. Make sure you're purchasing from a legitimate retail operation. If you're not sure of the retailer or who's behind it, you can always check places like the Better Business Bureau site to see if they have any listings for the company. You can also do an online search for the website and see if anyone has listed complaints or if they've had issues getting their merchandise that they purchased before you try to buy something from that site. Again, one of the ways these scammers may try to lure you in is through discounted prices on really popular merchandise. Many top brands rarely offer discounts, so if they do, they'll be on their traditional retail or manufacturer sites that you probably often use already. So don't fall for these little pop-up sites that you haven't heard before. Also, if you look for contact information and they list maybe a Gmail mail address or a Yahoo or an email address or some other free email service as opposed to the site name or company, if you don't see something like customer service at nike.com, this may be a sign it's not a legitimate site. The scammers don't usually waste time acquiring new email addresses for every site they create, so they may just list a free email they got from a popular service and use that across all their fraudulent sites. As I may have mentioned, just because a site looks fancy with nice graphics doesn't mean it is legitimate. The fake Nike, the Under Armour, and those other sites I showed, they had pretty nice photos, but they were stolen from legitimate sites. It's very, very easy to copy photos from the web or even take the code for an entire website to make it look legitimate. So if you aren't familiar with the site, do a little more digging before you purchase anything. And like I said, most legitimate sites will have their contact information clearly listed on the site. If they're selling authentic products, they want you to be able to contact them with any concerns you may have. Not so for the scammers though, because they want to hide it as much as possible. So if they have contact information, it will probably be fake. You can always do a search to see if the information is accurate and belongs to a real business. And I'll show you an example of that in just a bit. So now let's just briefly discuss some social media scams that we see. Ads like this sometimes appear on social media. And who wouldn't be excited to win a $1,000 Amazon gift card, right? But you have to be careful because this is really a scammer who's just really trolling for someone to bite on his scam. Notice that there's a fake time limit down there in bold. Only 4 minutes left to claim your prize. And this is a subtle trick that the scammers will use to pressure you to click right away instead of taking a moment to think if it is really a good idea to click on that link. Some of these types of ads may appear as holiday promotions. I've seen some that state, hey, in the spirit of the holidays, we're giving away 100 gift cards. And that is really generous, but unfortunately, it's not true. It's a scam. Some ads and links on Facebook and other social media sites may even look as if they're being shared by a friend or someone you know. It's another trick the scammers can use. So be very cautious about these and take an extra step to verify. If someone supposedly sends you a link who you think you know, call that person first or text them and see if they really sent you that link and if it's legitimate before clicking on them. If you do click on the link, it will probably ask you for a large amount of personal information and maybe even a credit card number, or in the Amazon case for the Amazon gift card, they may ask you for your Amazon account and password so they can credit your account, they'd say. And some of these may look like they're harmless surveys, but these folks really just want your personal information and your financial information so they can use it to profit off of you. So you can save yourself a lot of money and a lot of hassle by just not clicking on the links in the first place. This is another holiday scam that I saw a lot of last year. The Secret Sister or Secret Santa scams were going around social media quite a bit. I remember seeing someone I know and trust on Facebook who was forwarding these around last holiday season, and I'm sure they didn't know what was really behind it. And if you look, I'll read part of it real quick. It just says, hey, anyone want to have join in on this fun? The Secret Sister's back. I'm looking for a bunch of ladies interested in a holiday gift exchange. Doesn't matter where you live, you can all join. All you have to do is buy one gift valued at least $10 and send it to your Secret Sister. And hey, you can even buy it through Amazon. And then you're going to get 6 to 36 gifts in return, which is kind of a random number, 6 to 36. Big, broad number there. But it's so much fun. I love sending gifts and to a stranger, making their day bright. So if you're interested, just say I'm in, and we can all have a more joyful holiday season. Sounds good, right? Sounds pretty good. But if you're not familiar with this, again, the idea is you enlist a bunch of friends online to have a little gift exchange. Each person's supposed to purchase a gift for one unknown individual. You're going to mail it to them, and then in return, magically, you're going to get sent a large number of gifts from other Secret Sisters or Secret Santas. It sounds nice. It sounds like a holiday fun thing to do, but in reality, it's a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme designed as holiday fun. And this is how pyramid schemes work. You recruit people to buy in. In this case, you're recruiting them to buy presents, and they all get shipped off to someone you don't know. And then you're left with this empty promise that others are going to send you presents. In some of these schemes, you may actually get a few presents. It depends how early you are in the scheme and how many people are recruited and things like that. But most of the time, you're just sending gifts to someone who probably started the scam, or their friends or their relatives. Schemes like this are not legal because they're actually fraudulent, kind of like a chain letter. The old chain letters asking for you to send money and forwarding it to someone. And the Postal Service can actually investigate these and sometimes does. So I'm guessing you generally don't send money or gifts to people you don't know. And that's what this scheme is trying to get you to do. The author makes it sound like it's fun, a fun thing to do for the holidays, but it is really a scam. Besides having to send a gift to someone, the scam also may collect your personal information when you click on the link and it asks where you want your gifts delivered. So with just a few of these pieces of information, cyber thieves could expose you to a future scam or commit some sort of identity theft. So it's best just to avoid these types of ploys. If you want to be helpful, you can help protect others by stopping these posts immediately. If you receive one of these invitations to join a Secret Santa or a Secret Sister type program, you can report it on social media. If it's on Facebook, you can just click in the upper right-hand corner and select report post or report photo, and that could prevent others from becoming victims of this pyramid scheme. So again, if you really want to spread some holiday cheer, send your loved ones a nice card, not a holiday invitation to a pyramid scheme. They won't appreciate that. So the next one I want to talk about is sweepstakes and lottery schemes, which really tend to proliferate during the holidays when people are feeling generous and they think they may be lucky enough to win something of value. Just last year, the Federal Trade Commission received more than 116,000 reports of fraud involving prizes, sweepstakes, and lotteries that swindled victims out of over $166 million. So there's money to be made here, and that's why the scammers are invested in this. Lots of times what criminals will do is they're going to contact you and ask you to enter a sweepstakes or a lottery that benefits a charity raising funds around the holidays. The organization's name and mission might be one you recognize or sound legitimate, but it's best not to give unless you're certain you're giving to the real organization you know and you trust. So if someone contacts you on the phone from one of these groups, don't feel pressured to give or to participate. If you really want to give to a legitimate organization, you can always look up the phone number or the address of the organization you know and send them a check to make sure it's going where it should. Also around the holidays, some of these criminal groups may reach out to inform you that you've won their holiday lottery. But there's a catch. In order to collect your winnings, you have to pay some sort of upfront fees or taxes to get your money. And this is a scam. They really want to get your financial information and your hard-earned money, so please don't fall for it. If you didn't enter a sweepstakes or play the lottery, you probably didn't win. If anyone asks you for money or financial information, even if they're offering you some sort of big prize, please do not give it to them because it is a scam. Now this slide shows a press release announcing a sentencing in one of these lottery scam cases. I just wanted to show this to show that there are real schemes out there like this, and they're involving significant losses to victims. In this case, people were defrauded out of $1.8 million. And really sad, one victim lost nearly $1.2 million, probably their life savings. The release states that the perpetrator convinced the victims that they had won a lottery or sweepstakes, but needed to make some sort of financial payment up front before collecting the winnings. Now, fortunately, this fraudster was caught and was sentenced to 71 months in prison, but there's no telling if the people will get their money back. During the holidays, we also see more contest scams. These types of fraud are trying to entice you with a fancy prize, kind of like this brand new Tesla. So chances are that someone's not just going to give you a $40,000 car for answering a few questions online. There has to be some sort of catch, right? But of course there is. Again, the bad guys are after your personal information and probably your financial information too, if they can get it. So this is similar to those sweepstakes scams in that your valuable information is really the true prize for the scammers. You're not going to receive a car, so just ignore these and move on. It's also probably a little hard to see in this slide, but in the bottom of the page on the right, it says, this offer is brought to you by Library Property, and it lists an address at 680 East Main Street in Stamford, Connecticut. So I looked for that address just to kind of verify some of the things in this ad, and I thought it might lead to maybe an actual library that the scammer was using as a phony business address, but this is what I actually found. It looks like a nice park. Probably not a business giving away Teslas though. So I would never click on a link in one of these contests. But sometimes if you do a little research, you can easily show that this ad is a fraud. I also tried searching for a website for this company, this Library Property, but I couldn't find anything online. So it's another good clue that this is probably a scam. Now, I'm sure we've all seen a gift card display like this at a local store. It seems that more and more people are giving gift cards as the holidays, so I'm going to talk a little bit about gift card fraud. A survey last year found that nearly 2/3 of Americans plan to buy gift cards for family and friends for holiday presents. I'm sure you probably have, and I know I have as well. They're quick, easy, convenient, and the person can select something they want to buy. A global research firm in the US said that the gift card market is supposed to expand by nearly 10% to more than $170 billion just in the United States this year. So where there's this kind of money, there's also going to be scams. This one's a little more complicated. So fraudsters have actually developed a way where they can directly drain the cash that you put on a gift card, even though you've legitimately purchased it for yourself or someone else from a reputable store. So not surprisingly, these scams are spiking around the holidays. One trick is for the thieves to go to the store and they take some of the cards off the rack without actually putting money on them. They can take them home, they can scratch off the back where there's that little PIN number, and they get that PIN number from the card, and then later they're going to put a sticker on there, a replacement sticker, to cover that PIN number back up. So the scammers enter this card number and the PINs into a computer program that they have that repeatedly checks a retailer's website and notifies them when someone buys and loads money onto one of these cards. So these programs aren't illegal, but if you ever gone to a website and try to check the balance of your gift card and it makes you click on some different pictures of a traffic light or a stop sign or a crosswalk or things like that, it's trying to prevent those computers that these scammers have from checking this website over and over and over for what's a legitimate card with money on it. All right, so once the crooks and their computers see that someone buys and loads one of these compromised cards, they can then spend that money or transfer the money on the card or cash it in before you ever have a chance to give it to someone else to use it legitimately, if that makes sense. So as soon as they see that that card's been loaded at the store with money on it, they're going to spend it. You're going to give it to someone. It's going to have no value left on it once they get it. So a survey actually bared this out. A survey from AARP recently revealed that 1 in 3 people who responded said they had given or received a gift card that turned out to have nothing of value on it. And this is probably why. A scammer was watching electronically on the computer. They saw the card be loaded at the store, and they spent the money before the recipient even had a chance to receive the card. So here are some tips to prevent this type of gift card scam. Just make sure you're buying cards from stores that you're familiar with, not from any kind of third-party seller or from an online auction site. Buying from these types of sites is a gamble, and you might get burned. If you're buying a gift card from a retail store, examine it carefully. Look at the card itself. Make sure it looks new. Check the back where there should be something covering the PIN number. Make sure that hasn't been scratched off or removed. And just look for any other signs that may have been tampered with. Finally, I think it's always a good idea to just keep your receipt. If the card is compromised, this may help you get some of your money back when you're dealing with the store. All retail establishments are going to have their own gift card rules, and those are going to vary among each store. But those with good customer service may work with you if you become a victim of fraud. Now, I have just a couple more holiday fraud types to mention. We're talking about package delivery scams and travel scams. Delivery scams are really popping up in both email and text form. I think we all like to receive packages either from FedEx or UPS or the Postal Service or Amazon, especially during the holidays, and this fraud is exploiting that. These photos just show a couple of examples of what you might see. You might get a text or an email with something that looks like this. It often states that a delivery service couldn't deliver a package to your home, or maybe you've sent something or ordered something and they had to update the tracking information for your package. And the recipients are told to click on a link for more details. Now that link's going to take you to a site that looks somewhat legitimate, but the scammers really control it. Remember, they can easily make fake websites that look legitimate. And once you get to this website, it's going to ask you for some personal information that's pretty valuable to the fraudsters. May include credit card information, banking information, delivery addresses, things like that. That's what they're really after. So to protect yourself and protect your information, it's really important not to click on those links in these unsolicited messages. These are some questions to ask yourself. Was I expecting a package? Did I send a package to someone else? Did I ask for text notifications when I sent that package? These are things to think about. If you are expecting a package, or maybe you recently tried to send a package to someone, you can always open up your browser, not click on the links in these messages, but open up your own web browser and go to the company's website and check on the status of that package, or you can call their customer service number to confirm the authenticity of any kind of messages. The bad guys, again, they want you to click on the links in the messages in order to gain your personal information, so please don't do it. Finally, we have travel scams. So on those cold winter Ohio days, maybe a rainy day like this, we've all seen an ad for a beautiful tropical resort and thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice to take a vacation to an exotic beach right about now? Well, if you see unsolicited ads for vacations, I would be very cautious. If you look at the ad here, it is promising unsold hotel rooms at massive discounts and shows this lovely hotel surrounded by clear blue water. There are several things to watch for in these types of offers. First, I always question if someone offers extreme discounts because they're often a trap. Maybe they actually sign you up for some sort of vacation, but there's going to be large fees, or maybe minimum food and drink spending, high booking costs, or other issues that will end up costing you a lot of money. Some may even say that you've won a free vacation, and that gets back to those contest scams, like when we thought about that Tesla that they were offering us earlier. There's always a catch. They're going to charge you fees to collect the prize, or maybe just try to get your personal information so you can become their next identity theft victim. These vacation rental scams are another issue that we see. In this scam, you think you found an incredible vacation deal or maybe a rental property through a website, and the scammer will ask you to submit some sort of deposit. It's typically by wire transfer, which again is a red flag because they're taking money directly out of your credit union account and it's almost impossible to get back. So they want this deposit in order to secure the deal. And then when you arrive on your dream vacation, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed. Oftentimes, these locations are a lot less desirable than what they portray in the pictures. And sometimes, believe it or not, the property doesn't even exist. So your beautiful vacation to a nice condo in whatever country might not even exist. You're going to get there and have no accommodations. So again, just be very cautious. I'd say book these vacations through reputable travel agencies and hotel brands that you know and you trust. I want to end here with just some very general tips on preventing fraud. Many of these we've already discussed, but they're good practices so you don't become a victim. I mentioned this earlier, and it's worth repeating. Never respond to unsolicited calls, emails, or texts that ask for your personal information. Unless you initiate that interaction and you're dealing with someone you trust, do not provide your information. When it comes to emails and texts, be very cautious of attachments or links from senders you don't already know and trust. These can often carry malicious code that can harm your computer or direct you to some sort of website that will try to steal your personal information. Remember that scammers are very savvy, and they're going to copy emails and websites to make these offers look very legitimate, but please don't fall for them. Also be alert to potential phishing attacks like that UPS FedEx package delivery scam we discussed. There's a lot of variants of these types of schemes, and they're attempting to gain your personal information. Also be leery of what's called social engineering, which are attempts to manipulate people into revealing confidential and personal information that can be used for fraudulent purposes. So if you've ever seen some of those surveys online, especially on social media, where they ask you to list some fun facts about yourself, like the year you graduated, and maybe your pet's first name, your first car, where you got married, things like that. Well, those questions often line up with legitimate questions that real websites use when you need to recover your password, if you think about it. So it's not a coincidence, right? It's a form of social engineering that the scammers are using to try to get you to reveal important personal facts that they may be able to use to commit fraud against you in the future. It's also a good idea to check your credit report to make sure that you're not a victim of some sort of fraud. You can look for that suspicious activity, and you can get one free credit report each year from the 3 credit reporting agencies by going to annualcreditreport.com. That's the free site. There are other sites that may try to charge you, but annualcreditreport.com is the free site. You can request one from all 3 major credit agencies at once, or if you want to space them out, maybe request one every 3 or 4 months from a different agency. Then you can continuously monitor your credit year-round. If you see fraudulent activity and believe you might be a victim, it's important to report it immediately to your financial institution. It's also recommended that you notify the 3 credit reporting bureaus and ask for a fraud alert to be placed on your credit history. And this will basically instruct them to contact you if someone tries to open a credit card or some sort of loan in your name. If you're actually a victim of identity theft, you can also contact the IRS to notify the government that you've been a victim, and will alert them if someone tries to file a false tax return in order to receive your tax refund. I also recommend that you report any fraud to law enforcement. If it is a phone, email, internet scam, we recommend you use that ic3.gov to report the information. And as I mentioned before, IC3 bundles similar cases and refers them to the appropriate law enforcement agency for potential investigation. Finally, I want to end with some general good practices, like trusting your instincts. If it seems too good to be true, but the deal is too hard to pass up, well, it probably is too good to be true. If that item you want at the retail store costs $200 and you see it online for $50 on some unknown website, it's probably a scam. So I recommend you just walk away from any temptation to purchase it, no matter how great of a deal it may seem. Slowing down is another tip. These scammers, they're often trying to create a false sense of urgency to get you to make a poor decision. This is especially true in some of those phone scams where they're talking to you directly. They're going to elevate the intensity. They're going to add stress to the situation so that they can get what they want. So if you slow down, try to think through the situation, not be rushed, not be pressured, you're not going to wind up a victim probably. You're going to have a much better outcome. But if you let them amp up the pressure and get you to say yes while you're on the phone, they're going to get what they want. It's also a good idea to ask questions and do research. These scammers don't want to answer a lot of questions. They want you to say yes. They want you to send them money. They don't want a lot of pushback. If you're not sure, ask questions and then try to verify the accuracy through other means. It also never hurts to consult with people you trust. There's a lot of good people out there that are genuinely wanting to help. If you're unsure about a situation, ask someone you trust for their opinion. Chances are they're going to guide you in the right direction. And just remember, it's all right to say no. Don't be afraid to say no, to walk away, or just hang up on these scammers. They're motivated by greed. They're going to do just about anything they can to get your hard-earned money. It's okay to say no, even if that's not in your nature and it seems impolite. It's okay to say no. To end, I just want to say, hey, be smart. Use your instincts and the resources around you to maintain the money that you have. Law enforcement and those closest to you, we care, and we don't want you to become a victim. If you want to learn more about holiday scams, last year the FBI released a podcast that can be found at fbi.gov, fbi.gov/podcasts, and it's called Holiday Scams. There's also more information about scams and fraud on our website at fbi.gov and on our Twitter page at FBI Cincinnati. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. For everybody on the webinar today, we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A. I know we do have a couple questions, so if you have a question, please submit that using your question feature in your attendee panel. Otherwise, we'll go through the couple that we have and then give you guys some time back in your day. But with that, we'll start with the first one. Is there a way to stop scammers from sending me junk emails? I've changed my password several times and I've marked similar emails as spam. How do I get rid of receiving these types of emails?
That's a good question. We're obviously all inundated with these scam emails. So yes, you can try to block those. You can report them to the internet services. There's a place you can sign up online. The name is not coming to me right now, but if you search for it online, stopping junk email, there's a place where you can sign up to say that you don't want to receive marketing emails, but unfortunately those are going to be coming from legitimate marketing companies. The scammers don't abide by those rules. So really it's a matter of just clearing out your inbox from day to day, trying to block what you can and not even opening them or being enticed by their links. I'm sorry, I don't have a better solution to that.
The next question is, what should I do if my information has been compromised?
Good question. So if your information has been compromised, I would report it again to your credit agency, to the IRS, if you're the victim of some sort of identity theft, and then again to ic3.gov. There are also public websites out there. If you search the Federal Trade Commission's identity theft site, they're going to have additional information on there about how you should report that and what you can do once you become a victim.
And then it looks like this is going to be our last question, so we'll finish with this one and then give you guys some time back. The question is shopping online safe? Would you suggest shopping in person as much as possible?
Another good question, is shopping online safe? So it is safe as long as you're using a reputable website. Again, I use those, major websites, kind of the brick and mortar stores that you're familiar with locally that have websites, kind of the big names out there like Amazon that obviously sell a lot of online merchandise. Those are reputable sites and they're going to do everything they can to uphold that reputation and make sure everything on there is legitimate. It's when you do searches for specific items and you come across kind of those flashy looking sites with cheap electronics and things that are priced wrong, misuse of language, things like that, that I'd be very leery of. So again, if you're using reputable sites, you should be okay. Use a credit card in case you do become a victim of fraud. You always have recourse to your credit card company, but stay away from those pop-up sites that you're not familiar with. Check the web address, check the contact information, things like that to verify it is legitimate.
Thank you. So those are all the questions we have for today. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.